Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming here, and thank you, Game Days organizers, for inviting me here as a speaker. I'm very glad and excited to share the presentation today. Creating 3D illustration for character art. Why I chose this title, I will come back to you in the next few slides. Before that, I will introduce myself. I hope this works. This doesn't work. No, it doesn't work. I can just do it from here, no? Did you do it? Oh, okay. Yeah. So, about myself, I'm Rohit Singh. I'm from India. I'm currently working with Hanga 13 Games as a principal character artist. It's been more than 3 years now. During this presentation, I will be talking about my workflow, which is kind of a checklist I follow whenever I'm sculpting, and also breakdowns of the org creature. First portfolio. This is something, when I started my career, I was doing completely different stuff. I was mostly involved in doing architectural walkthroughs, doing logo animation. Just to show you as an example, this is something I was making in 2005. This was done in 3ds Max. So I started my career by making a lot of this kind of stuff, and this got me my first paid job as a video editor for an advertising agency, where I could not survive more than 6 months. I realized it's not for me. Video editing, it's definitely not for me. And my interest was started to develop into 3D modeling. And so I didn't have a portfolio for a 3D modeler, so I started working towards my 3D modeling portfolio, and I really wanted to work as a professional 3D modeler for animation industry. So this is something I made in 2005. I mean, this is the best I could do with my modeling skills at that time. And after creating this portfolio, I moved to animation industry, where I worked from 2006 to 2015 on various different projects, from Ninja Turtle to Transformer animated shows. During this time, I changed around 9 to 10 companies. But I was also working on my personal skills all the time, because this allowed me to learn new tools and definitely improve my skills, because the portfolio which I had in 2005 definitely will not work in the next few years. And the industry was kind of getting demanding all the time. Because now you have to not do just modeling, you have to work on texturing, do maybe grooming, lighting, rendering. So I will create characters always on the side. But in 2013, I saw this game, but not the game, but the work which was getting posted on Zebra Central. I kind of realized the work which I'm doing right now, I've never done any kind of realistic stuff before. During my personal time, also working on professionally. So this gave me kind of another goal to pursue, that I should make something realistic. But I did try making something realistic at the time, and you can see she looks lifeless somehow, because there are a lot of things are missing here. So I needed to improve my skill and learn about a lot of stuff. So I started researching online, and then I found a lot of things that I need to improve as an character artist and to work in games. So there was like a lot of stuff like art fundamentals, anatomy, what are real-time engines, and definitely what is PBR texturing, and a lot of stuff. So when I look up to this thing, it looked to me like a big elephant. And there's an analogy which says, how do you eat an elephant? It says piece by piece. So that's what I did. I picked the most important thing, which was anatomy. And if you want to make your characters look more real, your anatomy has to be right, because no matter how good texturing or lighting you will do, if your anatomy is not right, it's going to not look real. So from 2013 to 2015, I focus mostly on sculpting. I will sculpt every day. I will practice more. and try to improve my anatomy skills. And also, I was working on my first gaming character. And in 2015, I was very lucky to get a chance to work with Rockstar Games. Also, was very excited to work on this game because this game taught me a lot of new skills. Definitely working with those amazing, talented people in the company. They taught me amazing stuff about character art. And after finishing the game, I moved to Czech Republic, Brno, and this was my second gaming company, and this was also challenging because uh, I never worked with mobile games before, and again, this is a different platform for me. And when I was working on any task which was provided to me in Matchfinger games, I will add a lot of details on the characters because I was coming from a AAA background, and I will just add details everywhere. And my lead will be like zooming out the model, and then I will see if the proportion, if the silhouettes are wrong, then he will just provide me those feedbacks. And in my head, I will think, why the hell he is not looking at all the details I have added? But soon I realized when I started playing the game on the phone that, yeah, all the details won't make sense because I'm working for a very small screen. And all of the things which was mattering was your silhouette, your contrasty shapes, and that defines the character. So working for this platform was amazing. I learned a lot of stuff. Also, there were limitations for texture sizes, polygon counts, and within that limitation, you have to uh, produce quality. So it was fun and good learning experience here. And then I joined Hunger 13 Games as a lead character artist. So this gave me another opportunity to communicate more because before that, I will go to office, put on headphones, and just listen to songs or maybe play YouTube and work all day and don't communicate with any of the departments. But working on Mafia as a lead gave me an opportunity to interact with the other departments like animation, concept guys, art director, also providing feedbacks to my team, also learning from them because they are all talented people, and sometimes the things they do in a different workflow, it just intrigued me to learn from them all the time. So why am I telling you this? Because I never had a professional training in art, so whatever I learn, it's through working with various different companies and working with talented people across the globe. And I will always set a goal by working everywhere. And yeah, this is how I learned about character art, and now I'm working as a character artist. So creating 3D illustration for character art. Why I'm choosing 3D illustration for character art? Because I never focused, when I was creating characters, I never focused that I'm making it for games or for VFX houses. I was just wanted to make pretty looking pictures. So I will never care about topology. You can see it's super messy, very badly remeshed. And even this one was like super high res because I just wanted to sculpt and just do these kind of badly done UVs quickly and then put it into lighting rendering and then see them how it looks at the end. But I would not suggest to work in this manner because it just creates a lot of problem when you're trying to make any changes at the end. But I did make a few of these with the proper workflow, keeping in mind. About my workflow. So this is a checklist which I follow. Probably everyone know about this because references, I used to think references is kind of cheating because I was following some guy's concept and then the rest of the things I will just do it by my own imagination, and I was always wrong about it. So I will encourage follow references as much you can because you can look about like how the material is going to look, how the certain shapes are there on the body. And silhouette and proportion, definitely this was also the key. While working for mobile games, I realized this can change a lot. No matter how much details you add, if your silhouette and proportions are wrong, it's going to look off. Anatomy, forms, bone landmarks, plane changes. I won't go much into anatomy because I don't add a lot of stuff while I'm working. I mostly focus on bone landmarks and plane changes on the faces. Then I built up primary, secondary forms above it. Adding essence, which is, uh, I do it. It's kind of a thing. It's a very small stuff can add a lot of visually. It can improve your image really well. Like by following this small stuff, I will show you during the breakdown. So silhouette is pretty self-explanatory. Like definitely work on your silhouette the most and proportions. So whenever I'm sculpting, I'm trying to make the proportions from the start. So I will divide the head and then put the ear behind those ears. So before that, I was making mistake by just putting ear too close to the face, to the eyes or nose. And the next thing is like your head is wider and narrower from the front. And definitely dividing all the features equally. But it also depends on the likenesses you're trying to do because some of the faces, they don't have equally features divided. So, but whenever I'm doing these kind of checklists, I always follow. Also, the other thing is try to have a curvature around the forehead, also the curvature around your lip, because when you're trying to sculpt, you should not model them on a very flat surface because the lips wrap around a cylindrical form. So these are the basic things I put on first, and then I start building up the basic anatomy and plane changes. So I will make these really basic plane changes and put the base anatomy, the structure over there, before I jump into likeness. So I will try to add those temporal line, because this is the line which defines the plane changes from your forehead and the side of the face. Next thing is superciliary arch. It's not always visible on every faces, but I've seen like they're like really soft. Also on female, they are pretty soft. These frontal eminences also are very soft, but on some faces they are more pronounced. And the zygomatic arch, and then the shape of the mouth, which is kind of curved. So I place all these features whenever I'm sculpting, and then I built on my likeness above it. So once you know this anatomy landmarks, plane changes, it's easier to read them on your references. Because previously I didn't know about all of these things, and I will just make mistakes all the time, and my anatomy will definitely look off. So this helped me to read any references much better now. And then I built on my secondary forms. So you can see all those forms, all the shapes which I added on the base. I'm just smoothing them out and try to add those wrinkles and forms on top of it. And then the detail is just noise, because it's going to help you definitely in your close-up renders, but I feel this is noise. If you zoom out this image, you won't even see the details. So I spend a lot of time working on my secondary forms. And then once you know your anatomy really well, you can also apply it on stylized faces, creatures, or anything. So here what I'm doing right now is I'm taking those anatomy landmarks and just bulging them out, pushing them out, also changing the proportions. And then I work on my secondary forms. Here I kind of spend, again, a lot of time. I try to follow references like older people and different head shapes, and that helps me to add more different kind of forms and gravity to my wrinkles. And then again, details is just noise. And I have a second method for blocking shapes, which is kind of really helpful. Sometimes it's really hard to read any concept. So what I do is like I draw these bigger lines and with the angles, and then I try to copy it on my base mesh when I'm sculpting. And after that, what I do, I just try to break them into smaller pieces. So with this, my anatomy will be in place, my proportions will be in place, and I can break them really nicely. Pushing proportion and forms. This is what I do. Like I showed you, like I'm dividing equally those features, but here I'm trying to push them, like squeeze them around the eyes, because what I wanted to show here is the jaw is my primary shape, and also those horns are my primary shapes. So if I keep them equally, it won't look really nice. I also wanted to have them like a comic character look. With this other one, I'm trying to sculpt as a giant, and definitely they don't have pretty faces. Their faces are mostly deformed. But I'm trying to keep the anatomy there because that's really important. All those forms, I will just add it there. And you can see a lot of asymmetry I'm playing with. Also pushing these forms. You can see the side view. I'm trying to push the forehead and also the nose. I'm pushing back the nose, like trying to play with shapes. So once you know your anatomy, you can do a lot of things. Like you can come up with nice shapes, and definitely putting those things there is really important. So it shouldn't look off. So I spend a lot of time in here, not adding any kind of detail. I will just try to come up with nice shapes. And this one, I'm just trying my own concept, but I'm following a lot of reference, like a lot of weird references online, and still blocking the body right now. It's going to be a lot of time for me to work on it. Definitely the pose, and because it's still very straight. And I will suggest that if you are starting to learn anatomy, try to work on your base shapes, then move to skull. You don't have to work on details all the time. Don't have to add the teeth and everything. And then if you have enough time, you can do the planes for the skull. And facial muscles, I don't add very detailed facial muscles. I just add roughly, so I will know which facial muscles kind of helps to work when you're trying to speak or make any expression. And definitely head planes are really important at the end, because even if you're not doing any of the things, if you can study head planes, your head will automatically improve. So I always focus on bigger shapes. I try to put down the structure, silhouette, proportions, and a little bit of anatomy there. And if you know about design, definitely you can play with as well. And details for me are least important. So breakdowns. So breakdown of this creature which I created. I was following a sketch by Karl Kopinski. This is an amazing artist. And I just followed exactly from his sketch to the sculpt. But getting here, it was again a lot of learning experience, because I tried a bunch of things. I tried doing rough concepts because I didn't know how it's going to look at the end. I had no reference for it, or concept art, that how I'm going to texture this guy, how I'm going to lit this guy. So I will share all the stuff, like this adding essence, like I was talking about before. Like these small things definitely visually improve the look of your character. Emotion and eyes, like try to keep them staring at some place, or don't keep them like looking really straight. It's going to look boring. Lighting and atmosphere, it's also very important to show a certain mood to your image. Asymmetry is definitely important, because you don't want to keep symmetrical faces. It looks boring. Adding contrast, this is something where you want your viewer to look at your image first. So adding a contrast at certain area brings more attention of your viewer. Pose is also very important. You don't want to keep them in A or T pose. Try to give them subtle pose, even if they are shifting their weight. If you're also modeling just the head, try to tilt the head. Try to give some kind of expression. Scars kind of helps to add certain character to your character. Tattoos definitely defines like which tribe he belongs to. Effects, I don't add a lot of effects. I add a little bit of them, not to overpower the image, but just to make sense. And hair and fur grooming also defines your character a lot. References, as I talked about before, it's really important. So I had this sketch, and then I started collecting a lot of reference. I usually collect a lot of scans, because you have image from every angle, and it just makes your life easier. And also try to find the clay sculpts or real references. And by following those references, I sculpted the full body, added those props, and there's some close-up details of his face, close-up of hands and feet. So texturing. This is really important. If you're sculpting super high detail, really nice looking character, and if your texturing is not right, it's gonna look lifeless. So you need those mascaras on your eyes. And definitely I look like this when I remove my glasses. So I had this sketch, and again, I was making the same mistake, that not following references. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do by my own imagination. So I started doing the texturing, and I was like, okay, it doesn't look nice. And I moved to the head. It's like, I will just focus on the head first. So I did this, and then this, and it was getting worse, worse, and super worse. I was like, damn, I need to go back to Google and start looking for references. So the references are very important. Uh, so I found this movie, and this was exactly what I was looking for because my character was very similar looking to these characters, and I really like the guy on the top right. I really wanted to achieve something like that. So now I have a benchmark, so I started working on my textures. So as you can see on the left, this is the texture what I did. It doesn't have any information on the body, and on the right you can see I've added a lot of information. And all these textures are hand painted. And one thing I do, I use color zones on the faces a lot because it brings more realism. I try to paint red and yellow tones around the middle of the face because it shows fat and blood, and green tone where your hair grows or beard. I do it on the stylized faces as well. It just looks more beautiful. And you can find this information on Google. If you look up color zone of the face, you can find more detailed description. And then I have to work on other texturings, other maps, which was sweat. It was like roughness and specular, basically. And lighting the scene. So this time I didn't want to make mistake. I looked up references again. So I found this reference, and it was nice. And I was like, okay, I'm going to follow this reference and lit up my character. So I lit up this guy and was like, okay, I'm going to focus on the face. So I did focus on the face, and it looks like he's in a studio, but he shouldn't be in a studio because I wanted to show him that he's in a forest or maybe somewhere. But again, I was wrong, so I started looking up for references again. So I found these references, and also I realized the placement of the light is really important because it defines your character a lot, and what is he trying to say. So also the atmosphere is in him. So if you have a placement from the bottom, it's going to look spooky and horror, which I didn't want. So I found this one, which was really nice. Like, it was looking very menacing, very frightening. Also the shadows around his eyes, and also those specular dots on his eyes. Even the full eye is not visible. So I really wanted something like this to achieve on my character. So I removed everything like textures and shaders, and then I started working on the lights again. So I added rim lights. This kind of defines the shape of the body really well, the silhouette and the forms on the body really well. And it was getting too dark, so I added a little bit of fill light, so it shouldn't look too dark. And then my hero light from top, which was the key from top. And it definitely brings out really nice shadows under the eye, and it looks much better. And after that, I added texture and shader and then rendered it together. So I got something like this. And there was still a lot of stuff was missing, but it was still better than what I had in the first stage. So if I realized that it looks very monotonous, the skin, the fur, and my eye is just going everywhere on the image, which I didn't want. And I wanted to make changes, but if I go and make changes in 3D, it's just going to take a hell lot of my time to render it out and just wait for it. So I took this guy into Photoshop, and I just wanted to work on two things: lighting, atmosphere, and contrast. So lighting was kind of done. I just wanted to play with atmosphere and definitely play with contrast. So I took this guy into Photoshop. I painted some rough atmosphere from the top just to show if he's under the moon. And I realized his skin is like super clean. He should have this kind of skin. He's in a forest, so he should have some irregularities, like some freckles, also some dirt. He looks super clean, and like he's taking baths every day. So I tried my best in Photoshop. I'm really not good at Photoshop, so I just add those patches. This is like I'm kind of building a rough concept right now. Also, he's fat and he doesn't have any wrinkle or stretch marks, so I added those roughly quick lines. So when I'm texturing it, I will just follow these kind of stuff. And after working on the body, I realized let's make him a little more interesting because I wanted to show him as a mystical creature. So I added that tattoo, and I kind of realized all my attention is just going towards that tattoo. So I removed it and I moved it down. but still this tattoo wasn't making any sense. So looked up more references online, and I found some of the reference from Maori, and these tattoo work really well with my character. Now my head is kind of separating from the body really well. Also, it gives him more character that he belongs to some tribe. So I was happy about the body, and then I moved to the face. I kind of realized that the brightest spot was on his horns, which shouldn't be. I wanted more attention towards his face. So because I'm added the light from the top, so which is hitting directly on the horns first. So I just roughly darkened them down in Photoshop. And also the fur, which was super noisy, and also it was coming out just from the skin directly, and it doesn't have any blending. So I added some darker roots. But I also realized when I was working on this, I had this idea that he's in a forest, he should have really freezy fur or very noisy fur. But since I'm changing it from the main concept, I can take some liberty, and because he's a fantasy creature beast. So I worked on my grooming, like I painted some strokes, tried to define some grooming shapes, and it looks much better. All the shapes are going really well with him. After that, I want to focus on the eyes. Since he has a scar from his eyebrow to his eye, so I added a little bit of asymmetry to the eyes. I damaged one of his eyes, and definitely added the mascara drooping, which definitely helps the glow on a darker background. And I wanted to have a little more attention towards eye, so the best color to add attention was red, but I didn't want any random red color, so I added like a war paint, sorry. Maybe he's on a war or something like that. So after I'm done with all the rough concepting inside Photoshop, which took me roughly 3 or 4 hours, if I was doing it in 3D, it would have taken a longer time. But now here, I've decided, okay, this is something I want my character to look at the end. So I started working on all the changes. I reworked on the texture, added those tattoos, war paint. Then I have to work on my fur grooming. So I reworked on the fur grooming again, changed it from the concept. And also, when you're applying some kind of paints, because this guy is super hairy, so definitely that paint should get stuck on his eyebrows. So I modeled every paint on each and every eyebrow mesh, just to show that it's like a freshly painted on his face. It's a small detail. Maybe it adds some depth or no, but yeah. And there was the first render which I had, and this was the ideas which I generated inside Photoshop. And the rough concept, and then all the changes applied inside 3D. Now I have much better depth here, much better colors. Also the contrasts are playing really well. So the very first render and the second render, you can see, I changed it, not drastically, but there are a few things which I added, all those small little essence, which helped me to make this guy more visually appealing. But I still feel I can still improve in compositing stage. So I wanted to drive the attention to his face again. And right now, if I see the whole image is completely lit in the same intensity. So the best thing is to add vignette, but I don't want to add the vignette to the whole image. So I add it from the bottom. And it also gives nice volume around his belly. And my background was completely dark. And I thought of adding moon, clouds, and tree, but it was getting super noisy. So I added just a little bit of spark, just to have something in the background. And then the hair grooming which I did, it was fine, but I kind of realized I can still add few strokes just to enhance them, improve them, or pop them out a little. And then also the red paint which I painted, you can see probably, it went super dark, so I made them a little brighter. Also the glow on the eyes, a little brighter. And I was talking about effects. So this was something I added a little bit of it. I wanted to show he's a mystical creature, his eyes are flaming. Also, I didn't add flames like in a straight line. It has to have a movement just to show. So this was my before, and this was the after compositing. So all those small things definitely added a lot of stuff to this creature. And here's a mid close-up with the same changes applied. And here's the extreme close-up. So by working on this one, like as I mentioned before, I only had the sketch and then everything I have to figure out. And definitely it gave me an opportunity to learn a lot of stuff. So yeah, I enjoyed working on this one. Because I worked on like these kind of stuff before. Like I follow the reference completely and then try to copy them. Also with this one as well. But also this takes also some skills to do it. But there's no fun in it because I'm just following references straight. Also, sometimes when you follow reference, it doesn't work really well. I tried to give him the same pose, and it didn't really work well. So you simplify them. So that's also another thing with references. Presentation. So this is really important. No matter how good lighting, texturing skills you have, if you cannot present your character really well on ArtStation or on your website, it won't bring attention to your portfolio. So let's say I made this creature, I followed the concept, rendered in the same angle with the concept. Also, I try to render with a few other angles like this and this. But I always keep this key image because I need to show not the full character, but certain part of it, which is more easy on the eyes. Like there are areas of rest and then noise, and then I see the face. Because if I would have kept this, the half of the image just have just noise, and it's just taking a lot of space, which I didn't want. Also with this one, when I was working, I had this reference. I knew that my primary thing is the head, is the likeness. I don't bother about his hand, his knife. But I did model a little part of his body, which I later realized is also, again, an empty space, which will take up the image, and it doesn't serve any purpose, so I just cropped it. And I also play with lighting, with different lights, with different angles. If you add these kind of images in your portfolio, it just shows like how much work you do, not just on one angle, on one side. You can show like a few different angles as well. With this guy, the same thing. I render one image following the reference, and then I try to play with lighting, put a few different angles. And also the last thing is when you're putting your stuff on ArtStation, it's definitely important. Try to crop them and see how your thumbnail is going to look, because nowadays ArtStation is just full of amazing art, and you don't want to miss your art by people. So what I do is like I don't fully scale up the image in a thumbnail. I leave some space around on the border, because I scale up the image. It just blends with other thumbnails. So it's really hard to read. So you can put this screenshot in Photoshop and then try to scale them, place them before posting it on ArtStation. And last thing is about the resources. I don't want to put a lot of resources here because I had a lot of resources for anatomy, and I realized I'm not using any of them at all, because when I found these books, these are amazing books. Even if you don't have to buy 3 of them, just buy first and the last one. This is enough for learning anatomy. Also, ScanStore is really good because when you're sculpting, they also have a lot of age groups of people where you can follow those images. Because when you're working on your sculpt, you don't want to show every muscles because every muscle doesn't show. If your muscle is active, only then it's going to show. So this also shows you how the form works, how the flow is there on every kind of body, every kind of age group. And the last thing, which is competing with others, I don't want to be philosophical here, but this has kind of helped me a lot. Whenever I see someone posting some good stuff, I'm not talking about other artists, but in my friend circle, and I might be getting jealous, and I will try to work on the same thing. And even if I'm not liking it, because that's not my style of work, but I will still work just to prove that I can also do it. But at the end, I was just hurting myself. So instead of getting jealous by them, get inspired by them. And you are your own competition, because the work you were doing yesterday, you can do it better today and tomorrow by learning it. And thank you, guys. This was my presentation. You can check Instagram. I post a lot of WIP there. And I have some full video tutorials about texturing, hand painting texturing, and the shading and lighting which I did on Orc. There's a full video on YouTube. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Rohit. I mean, we've got about 10, 15 minutes for a Q&A if anybody has any questions. Also, just remind people, there is the Slido application if anyone would like to use that to submit questions, but there's nothing on there at the minute, so if someone wants to pop their hand up, I'll bring the microphone over if anyone has any questions for Rohit.
That's fine.
No, everyone's very shy today. Yep.
Hey, so I'd like to ask how, for example, you manage your stress management. And, for example, you do a lot of work, like a big project. Do you have like a break, or you do some more work to keep in shape?
I was doing it before, but nowadays I'm super lazy. I don't work at all. So I would say, stress. Yeah, I do get stressed, but I don't care about it now. I will do it in my own time. If I like something, I will do it. Otherwise, I will just watch Netflix. That's what I'm doing. Or because I had enough of this, because I'm doing a lot of stuff in office and then coming back home doing the same things. No.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions? Yep, 1 second. I'm going to have to do my cardio to get over there quick. Here we go.
Thank you. All right, so I wanted to ask, essentially, how did you begin doing this? How did you get into this? So yeah, that's what I wanted to ask.
Yeah, as I said before, when I started my career, I didn't have any kind of goals. I mean, I do had few goals, if I say it in a short story. When I was growing up, I had a lot of goals, but my father never approved any of it. I wanted to learn music, dance, and also become a magician. And he told me, don't even think of this, just focus on your study. So I went to him with my request that I want to learn computers, and he said, okay. Surprisingly, he said yes. And I was like, okay. And then I started learning computer. It was just a basic computer course. And I didn't enjoy those things because they was teaching how to assemble computer. But the environment of going there, like working on a computer in an air-conditioned office, that inspired me. I was like, okay, when I'll grow up, I want to work in an air-conditioned office on a computer, but don't know what. So after finishing my studies, I went to my dad again. It's like, Dad, I want to learn 3D computer animation. And he said, what is animation? So I had to show him some of the animation movies from DreamWorks. And he's like, oh, you want to make cartoons? I was like, yeah, I want to learn cartoons. And he's like, people are going to pay you to make cartoons? I was like, maybe. So he didn't say yes or no, but I knew the answer. So my aunt kind of helped me to get into animation industry, but I had no idea what I'm going to do in animation industry because at that time they were just teaching softwares. They were not teaching any kind of specialization, like for modeling for games or texturing for games or anything like that. So they will just teach you software and then you are on your own to figure out. So I will just go to studios and find work, and they will be like, you don't have a portfolio. We can't offer you a job. We cannot place you in any company. So I started working for free. So whatever kind of work I was getting, so I was getting architectural walkthroughs, doing video editing because I knew the softwares. So I was getting this kind of job. And slowly when I was making those logo animations, so I was creating those models. That inspired me that I was getting good at creating models. So I focused myself learning 3D modeling. And that's how I began my 3D modeling career. But for games, definitely I was always thinking that games doesn't have good quality until I saw Last of Us. And then that gave me another goal to work on my skills and learn. So everything I learned is from the internet or it's from asking around other artists. So that's how I grew throughout my career span.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Also, you got a sick haircut.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions? Yep, okay. Of course, it's on the other side of the room.
I would like to say that thank you, Rohit, for amazing presentation.
Thank you.
It was really it really inspired me. But
Thanks.
yeah, the question is you are still young, very good.
I'm old.
Yes,
really
yes, you're very talented, and
thanks.
I would like to ask you, what are your future goals? Like, if you want to still improve your like fundamentals,
Yes.
or you want to like work on like so like for you want to work on your like favorite movies, and because you work on Red Dead Redemption and Mafia, so like, what are your future goals? Like, do you have any ambitious?
I do have to, I mean, I definitely have ambitions. I mean, Hunger 13 is my 13th company in 15 years. I've changed many companies, but I would like to stay here more because I'm enjoying the work which I was getting, and also they give enough time to improve your skills, and they also support you. So I don't have any other aspiration to work on a movie, but definitely work on other mafia projects if we are working on. And nowadays, I'm kind of getting interested towards concepting, but damn AI is like, I don't enjoy seeing AI stuff. But yeah, I really want to improve my art fundamentals because I don't know all of them. I still have to practice those. And definitely I saw the improvement when I started following just few of things like contrast, silhouette, like just because of those few things, it really helped me to improve my art. So definitely I would like to improve my art fundamentals.
Thank you for answer.
Yeah.
Excellent. Do we have any other questions for Rohit? No.
Okay.
Oh, we got one down at the front.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening. One question? Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
I'd like to ask, do you think, like, I feel like a lot of artists later in their career develop different hobbies.
Yeah.
And thanks to that, maybe their art changes. Like they get to know, like they educate themselves in different directions also. Do you think it's important for like a artist that is at the beginning of their career? Like, does it make your art better? Like, do you have any hobbies that you think improve your art or make it more interesting and different from the other?
Yeah, definitely. I cannot say about others, but what I started to enjoy recently in the last few years, I was kind of getting bored on sitting on a computer all the time. So I try to print my stuff, I make them, and then I also paint on top of it. So this also gives me a really nice feeling because I'm now dealing with physical colors and I can see the physical model in my hand. So it became my hobby. So I go home and I do this kind of stuff nowadays. But definitely, yeah, like you can't do this forever because it's just gonna burn you out. Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we have any last-minute questions for Rohit? No? Well, then, I mean, we've had one small round of applause, so let's make the second one much larger for him. Let's say thank
Thank
you.
you, guys. Thank you.